It's May 3rd, 1808, in Spain. Napoleon's soldiers collect the Spanish civilians they'd arrested during an uprising the previous day. They take them into the hills above Madrid, and this is what happened next. This is the 3rd of May, 1808, by Francisco de Goya. It's one of the most haunting images ever painted because it deals with the human toll of war. This isn't an active, exotic glorification of battle filled with movement and colour, nor is it an orderly triumph of high-mindedness as one side claims the victory. Instead, Goya shows us unknown, ordinary Spanish civilians moments before they're shot by a French firing squad. It's a chilling image, one that stays with you well after you've looked away. Not only is the subject matter tragic, but the way Goya paints it is as well. His loose, brushy style gives an almost journalistic touch to the piece. It looks hurried, like the manner of execution itself. In this painting, Goya is taking down what he imagines happened that day, capturing the last nightmarish seconds between life and death. The man in the white shirt draws the eye first. He's one of the Spanish prisoners, and for Goya, almost a Christ-like figure. Here, he kneels in a pool of blood with his arms raised at either side of his head in symbolic crucifixion. His white shirt glows against the ochreous, earthy background, and like Christ, his right hand seems to be marked by stigmata. He stares out at his executioners, head tilted slightly forward, eyebrows an inverted V, wearing a profoundly sad, resigned expression, as if like Christ on the cross to say, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." But Goya's brush is unforgiving. For Goya, this man is almost divine, an innocent martyr to the Spanish cause at the hands of the French oppressors. And although he is the focal point, the guns are pointed at him and the prisoners' bodies lead the viewer's eye to him, his isn't the only story Goya tells in this grim scene. You can almost read this painting as an exploration of the different faces of fear, of aggression, of, well, death. We see the men climbing up the hill to the right, a seemingly endless line of prisoners to the slaughter. Some avert or cover their eyes, not wishing to see what's about to occur. Another figure glares out at the French soldiers, covering his mouth in horror. To the left, we see the central group facing their executioners in various postures of distress. Some prisoners hold their heads in their hands, another stares at the soldiers, jaw jutting forward in either defiance or fear, while another prays, possibly for salvation or divine intercession. And Goya doesn't stop there, he also shows us the shared fate of these men. At the leftmost corner of the painting, we see those who have already been shot, their heaped bodies and foreshortened torsos with blood still running from the wounds. Just look at this man, he is a horizontal echo of the still-living central figure, hands also raised in a sort of gruesome pre and post. The French soldiers, for their part, are more like a machine made of men than actual men. They wear the same boots, coats, and hats, they carry the same packs and hunch over the same rifles. They face away from the painter and the viewer. War, Goya seems to say, has robbed them of their individuality, their humanity. Instead, they are anonymous and united under one purpose: to shoot. It's an act which probably takes less than 5 seconds, but here, Goya forces us to confront the drama of that 5-second interval between life and death, and what it ultimately all means. For Goya, war is dichotomous, it's two-sided, and he sets up these dichotomies throughout the 3rd of May 1808. We see prisoners versus executioners separated by rifles, light versus dark, unarmed versus armed, human versus inhuman, victim versus aggressor, disorder versus order, emotion versus indifference, and life versus death, to name just a few. But what brought us to this point? Well, in 1808, Europe and the Spanish monarchy was in crisis. Briefly put, the French Emperor Napoleon had forbidden European countries from importing British goods. Portugal refused, so Napoleon asked Charles IV, then King of Spain, if he could send French troops through the country to invade Portugal. Spain said yes, and Napoleon not only stationed French troops throughout the country, but also plotted with Ferdinand VII, Charles's son, to overthrow his parents so that he, Ferdinand, could take the Spanish crown. Or so Ferdinand thought. Instead, Napoleon brought Charles IV to Bayonne and forced him to abdicate in favor of Ferdinand. Then he sent Ferdinand to Bayonne and forced him to abdicate too, this time in favour of Napoleon's brother, Joseph Bonaparte, but we'll get to that later. For now, it looked like the French had more or less invaded, and the Spanish were not at all happy about it. The final straw came when Napoleon decided to send the last members of the Spanish royal family to France. On May 2, 1808, Spanish civilians and some military attacked French troops in Madrid, in what would later become known as the 2 de Mayo uprising. Outmanned and significantly outgunned, the Spanish rebellion was unsuccessful and suppressed. The next day, May 3rd, Napoleon's troops, under orders of Marshal Murat, executed hundreds of Spanish civilians. Everyone who had been arrested during the previous day's rebellion and found with a weapon was killed. Just over a month later, Napoleon's brother was installed as King of Spain. This went over about as well as you'd expect, and after an extensive fight, Ferdinand VII reclaimed the Spanish throne in 1813. But back to Goya. The year is 1814. We are again in Spain 6 years after the massacre. Goya had spent the intervening years in at least partial sympathy with the French cause, although he never approved of war. Now that Ferdinand VII was back on the throne, Goya had to prove his loyalty. The best way to do that? Painting, of course. So he asked King Ferdinand VII for a commission to perpetuate by means of his brush the most notable and heroic actions of our glorious insurrection against the tyrant of Europe. For this commission, he painted the 2nd of May 1808 and the 3rd of May 1808, a painting which would come to redefine the genre, because what Goya shows us in the 3rd of May 1808 is the ugly reality of war. There's no real redemption here, no heroism, no glory. Instead, war is presented as a bloody, terrible, scary thing. It kills or turns men into machines, and Goya reminds us, there are never any winners. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please consider supporting us on Patreon at the link in the description box below. As a Quince patron, you'll get early access to future videos and can even vote on upcoming video topics. Our amazing patrons allow us to work on these videos full-time and make them as good as we possibly can. Thank you all very, very much for your support.